Nura Dalma, the ancient Aramaic secret that reorganizes your reality. That word is Nura Dalma, and it does not mean what most translations have led you to believe. Most people have heard the phrase light of the world their entire lives, without once suspecting that the Aramaic original contains a coded instruction about how consciousness itself is meant to function in the universe. Nura Dalma is not a compliment, and not a poetic flourish. It is a cosmological statement about the nature of your soul and its relationship to every single thing that exists around you. If you have ever felt like your life lacks direction, like your energy scatters and nothing seems to hold together, this teaching was written for this exact moment in your journey. Jesus did not come to build a religion. He came to transmit a frequency, and Nura Dalma is the name of that frequency. Stay with us until the end, because what you are about to receive is not information. It is activation. When Jesus stood before the crowd and spoke the words we now translate as, "I am the light of the world," he was not speaking Greek. He was not speaking Latin. He was speaking Aramaic, the living language of his people, and the word he chose for. Light was Nura. That single word carries within it an entire cosmological tradition that modern translations have almost entirely failed to preserve. And understanding it changes everything about what Jesus was actually transmitting. In everyday language, light tends to feel soft and metaphorical, a symbol for goodness, warmth, or moral clarity. But in the Aramaic tradition from which Jesus drew his deepest teachings, Nura was something far more precise. It named the organizing intelligence that separates coherent, meaningful reality from scattered and formless matter. Nura was not the glow of a lamp. It was the principle that makes form possible, the force by which chaos arranges itself into recognizable structure, by which disconnected elements begin to cohere around a living center of meaning. When an Aramaic-speaking listener heard the word Nura, the image that arose was not luminosity in the visual sense. It was structure. It was order. It was the invisible intelligence holding the pattern of the world together from within. In the deep tradition that shaped Jesus as a teacher, Nura was understood as the very reason reality did not collapse into incoherence at every moment, the organizing thread running through all manifested existence, the force that gave shape and purpose to experience itself. Now add Dalma. Most translations render Alma simply as world, but in Aramaic, this word carries the sense of an entire age, a vast cycle of unfolding conscious experience as it moves through time and space. Alma is not just the earth beneath your feet. It is the whole living field of becoming, everything that has taken form and everything still emerging. When Jesus joined Nura and Dalma together, he was naming something extraordinary, not a light that shines upon the world from outside, but a light that actively organizes the world from within. And he was saying that this is precisely what you are, not as a metaphor, but as a functional reality that the ancient Aramaic tradition understood in full. This is the foundation of everything that follows. Once you feel what it means, nothing about your life will look the same again. If Nura Dalma names an organizing principle embedded in the structure of all reality, the most important question it raises is this: where does that principle actually live? Centuries of religious tradition have placed it outside and above, in a divine figure, separate from ordinary human experience, reachable only through specific institutions or extraordinary acts of devotion. But the Aramaic text refuses this answer with startling directness. Jesus did not use Nura Dalma only to describe himself. In the Sermon on the Mount, he looked directly at the crowd, ordinary people, confused people, people searching for direction in a world that seemed to offer them none, and said the very same phrase to them: "You are the light of the world." The same Aramaic resonance, the same cosmological claim, applied not to a singular divine being, but to the very people sitting before him in their uncertainty. Jesus was not encouraging them with a metaphor. He was identifying them. He was naming what they actually were at the deepest level of their being, an organizing principle, a living Nura Dalma, capable of bringing coherence to everything they touched. This realization carries enormous consequences for how you understand your own purpose. If Nura Dalma is not an exclusive title reserved for the extraordinary, but a description of what awakened consciousness naturally does in the world, then your presence is never passive. Your awareness carries weight. Wherever you rest your full attention, wherever you enter a situation with genuine interior presence, You carry with you the potential to bring order, meaning, and coherence to what was previously scattered. This is not a spiritual metaphor. In the Aramaic tradition, it is a functional description of what Nura Dalma does in the lived world. The reason so many people move through life feeling purposeless is not that they lack a calling, it is that they have forgotten what they are made of. They were never taught that their awareness itself, not their achievements, not their status, not their relentless productivity, is the organizing principle Jesus was pointing to when he spoke these words. Nura Dalma is not something you need to earn. It is not something you need to become. It is something you need to remember. And this ancient word, spoken in the language Jesus actually used, is one of the most direct paths back to that remembrance that exists. If these Gnostic teachings are awakening a desire for inner transformation within you, we prepared the guides with the sacred words where this journey begins. The link is pinned in the comments. One of the most painful experiences a human being can have is the feeling that nothing in their life holds together. You wake up and move through the day, but the sense of meaning that should be animating your choices feels absent. You make decisions, but they feel arbitrary rather than aligned. You build relationships, careers, habits, and yet something fundamental seems missing, as though the thread that was supposed to connect all the pieces of your existence has gone slack. Most of the world diagnoses this condition as a lack of ambition or a failure of character. Jesus, speaking through Nura Dalma, understood it as something far more precise. In the Aramaic framework, what you experience as purposelessness is the temporary obscuring of your organizing function. It is not that the Nura within you has gone out. It is that layers of fear, inherited belief, and accumulated noise have covered it like dust on a lens that was always capable of focusing light. The universe has not withdrawn its organizing principle from your life. You have, through years of misdirection and forgetting, lost regular access to the frequency that was always your nature. The capacity is intact. The awareness of it is what is dimmed. Jesus addressed this condition directly and repeatedly throughout his ministry. When he spoke of being lost, he was not using the language of moral failure. He was using the Aramaic language of disorientation, a consciousness that has lost its center, that has forgotten its organizing function. To be lost in the Aramaic sense is not to be bad. It is to be without coherence. It is to be Nura Dalma operating below its natural frequency, a principle of organization that has temporarily forgotten how to organize. And this is precisely why his teachings carried such extraordinary power for so many different kinds of people. He was not offering anyone a new set of rules to memorize. He was restoring something in them, a recognition, a remembrance, a return to the awareness of what they fundamentally were. Every parable, every healing, every transformative encounter with an outcast or a doubter was a demonstration of the same underlying reality, that Ine Wache Ere Dalma, when fully awakened, does not merely find its own center, it draws everything around it back into coherence as well. This is the promise that lives inside this ancient word, and it has never stopped being fully available to you. The question that naturally arises is, how did Jesus actually demonstrate Nura Dalma in the lived world? Not as a theological concept and not as a poetic image, but as a concrete reality that others could observe, learn from, and ultimately practice themselves. The answer is one of the most quietly radical aspects of his entire ministry, and it has everything to do with how Jesus related to the interior quality of his own presence. Jesus consistently organized reality around a single principle of interior coherence. He did not respond to circumstances with the reactive patterns that govern most human behavior. He did not absorb the chaos of a situation and amplify it back into the field. Instead, wherever he entered a space, whether it was a room full of grief, a crowd full of confusion, or a confrontation full of hostility, something in the fabric of that space reorganized itself around the quality of his presence. This is what Nura Dalma looks like in action, not dramatic, supernatural intervention, but a consciousness so grounded in its own organizing nature that the field around it cannot maintain its disorder. Consider the moment Jesus stood in the boat during the storm. His disciples were terrified, their attention entirely captured by the chaos of the waves and wind, and Jesus, functioning as Nura Dalma, did not fight the storm. He spoke to it from a place of such interior order that the external disorder had nowhere left to maintain itself. The Aramaic word he used in that moment was a word of command, not shouted in fear, but spoken with the quiet authority of one who knows their organizing function has not been suspended by circumstances. This is the teaching that lives beneath the miracle. Jesus was not demonstrating that he was superhuman, and therefore unreachable. He was demonstrating what becomes possible when a human consciousness has fully recovered the awareness of its Nura Dalma, its identity as an organizing principle rather than a passive receiver of events. He was showing his disciples, and through the centuries, showing you that the power to bring coherence to a disordered situation does not arise from willpower or strategic thinking. It arises from the quality of interior presence you bring to the moment. This is the practice, and it is entirely learnable. If this teaching is stirring something in your heart and you wish to explore it further, we prepare the guides that explain the first sacred words where the journey begins, their layers of meaning, and the transformation they carry. The link is pinned in the comments. Now comes the question that everything in this teaching has been building toward. How do you actually live as Nura Dalma? How do you move from understanding this concept intellectually to inhabiting it as a daily, embodied reality? Jesus did not leave his disciples with a philosophy without a practice. He left them with a clear interior orientation. And that orientation begins with a single, decisive shift in where you place your attention and what you consider your primary function in the world. The shift is this: you stop measuring your worth by what you produce and start measuring it by the quality of coherence you carry. This is not a passive change. It requires a fundamental reorganization of how you begin each moment of your day. Most people wake up and immediately start scanning their external environment. What is broken? What is missing? What other people think? What might go wrong? This is consciousness operating in reactive mode, which is the precise opposite of Nura Dalma. An organizing principle does not begin with the disorder around it. It begins within itself, establishes its own coherence first, and then moves outward from that established center. Jesus taught this in terms his Aramaic-speaking audience would have recognized immediately when he instructed his followers to seek first the kingdom using the Aramaic word mal, meaning the ruling principle, the ordering sovereignty. He was not describing a distant future reward. He was describing a present interior state. The experience of consciousness when it has returned to its organizing function. Malkuta and Nura Dalma point to the same living reality from two different angles. One names the domain of the organizing principle, the other names the principle itself, and the instruction Jesus gave was always the same. Begin there. Establish coherence within before attempting to bring it without. What this means for your daily life is profoundly practical. Before you enter a difficult conversation, you pause and return to your center. Before you make a decision under pressure, you locate the stillness that your Nura Dalma always has access to. Before you react to chaos in your environment, you remember what you are at the deepest level of your being, not a passive receiver of circumstances, but an organizing principle moving through the world with intention and quiet authority. Every moment you choose that interior return, you are not merely practicing a technique. You are living the teaching that Jesus embedded in Nura Dalma, and the world around you will begin to respond to it in ways you have not yet imagined possible. Everything you have encountered in this teaching returns to a single, irreducible truth. Jesus used the Aramaic expression Nura Dalma not as a title of exclusivity, but as a transmission of remembrance. He was not pointing to something beyond your reach. He was pointing to something you had forgotten. Something that has been present at the center of your consciousness since before you were shaped by the world's noise, expectations, and fears. The entire arc of his ministry was a demonstration of what becomes possible when a human being recovers the full awareness of their organizing function. Every healing was Nura Dalma encountering disorder and restoring coherence. Every moment of clarity in the face of chaos was Nura Dalma operating at its natural frequency. Every invitation to the overlooked, the outcast, the searching, it was all the same message. You are not what the world has told you that you are. You are the organizing principle of your own experience. And when you live from that awareness, you become it for the world around you as well. The drift, the purposelessness, the sense that nothing holds together. These are not your permanent condition. They are the experience of Nura, temporarily covered, not extinguished. And every moment you choose interior coherence over reactive noise. Every moment you pause before the storm and speak from your center rather than your fear. You are practicing the teaching that Jesus embedded in this ancient word thousands of years ago. The frequency is still alive. The organizing principle is still within you. The world does not need you to become something new. It needs you to remember what you already are. Visit Divine Light Academy, my site dedicated to bridging ancient spirituality and modern living. There you will find my advanced guides and a deep journey into Aramaic, the living language of the Masters designed to help you access states of deep resonance, clarity, and personal revelation. The link is pinned in the comments. Get ready in the next video. I will reveal more sacred Aramaic words that unlock deeper spiritual understanding. Turn on notifications so you don't miss it. Right now, before you close this video, come to the comments and tell us, what did you feel? What shifted? We read every single response. And if this teaching found you today, subscribe to this channel. Every week we go deeper into the ancient frequency codes that were always meant to be yours.